Hey everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Heretics of Dune by Frank Herbert. This is the fifth book from the original sixth book of Dune by Frank Herbert, and this is the first time ever in the history of Dune where the story is not under the hand of a figurehead with prescient like Poe and Leto. Or at least it shouldn't be, since in the last book, Shiona managed to kill Leto and release the sand rot that's been germinating in his body for 3000 years to terraform Dune back into its desert form. And they not only managed to build technology that shield them from prescient like the no ship, but with the Bene Gesserit breeding program, Leto has managed to evolve Shiona to become an antithesis of prescient. She's anti-prescience in a way, someone who cannot be seen by vision of people with prescient ability. You can argue that this book should be the most important book in Dune original story, since everything about the last four books is telling us that a hero is a disease and blind faith in anyone or anything can only lead to disastrous results, and this book is the result of those philosophy that guides the series. The book opens with two Bene Gesserit talking to each other while monitoring the latest Duncan Idaho that they've gotten from the Delaku. This is the 12th Duncan that they're trying to imprint into becoming a tool for the Bene Gesserit. Thus, the story introduces us to another Duncan Idaho and giving us some ideas of how long it's been since Leto's death, measuring time with how many Duncan Idaho it has been since the last one, which is cool I guess, but also they've failed 11 times off screen already. How stupid are these people? After Leto's death, two major historical events has gone off camera. The first is the famine times because of both humanity over-reliance on Leto's prescience guidance and the lack of spies from Arrakis that has yet to finish its desertification. Many planets suffered from political collapse and starvation, and as a result of the famine, many, especially the Bene Gesserit and the Fish Speaker, goes on a journey outside of the current known galaxy, further into the infinite space. An event known as the Scattering. Centuries has passed and now some of the people that has gone to the Scattering is returning as a threat to the people who choose to stay, and this Duncan is one of the plans for the Bene Gesserit that stayed to make sure that dictatorship like the one they experienced with Leto does not get back into power. But so far they failed 11 times with the Duncan. Each Duncan Idaho so far has been killed by the Tleilaku who gave them the Duncan Idahos, so this might be the last Gola they can order, which they asked to have as a child form instead of an adult body. Lucilla, the Reverend Mother who is tasked with sexually imprinting the child Duncan Idaho, was in conversation with the other Reverend Mother named Squang Yu, but Squang Yu doesn't seem to agree with the Bene Gesserit Mother Superior Ama Mavis Tarasa about the Gola project that they've been doing, considering it as a dangerous project to undergo considering the long history of Duncan and the worm. Which is why Tarasa sent Lucilla to the Gamu Keep where the Idaho is left with Squang Yu, because he cannot be trusted with his safety. Plan that doesn't make much sense, but anyway, a ton of things has happened in the world of Dune after Leto's death 1500 years ago. Some of the culture that is created during his rule still persists to this day, but outside of some belief that is created during the time of the God Emperor of Dune, not much has remained. Arrakis, for example, has changed its name to Rakis. It's turned back into a desert, but it's filled with people who no longer have the ability to live in the desert since the free man culture is long gone. But a child named Sienna Brooke has appeared on Rakis who can control the giant worms, and a group appeared from the Scattering called the Honored Maitre that directly opposes the Bene Gesserit. During their conversation, Lucilla saw Patrin, a Bashar, a rank from the Sardaukar that means the revival of some of the old ways from before Leto's peace, because this means that Sardaukar has replaced back the placement of the Fish Speaker. He is there under his leader Miles Tech's order to train the Gola. Meanwhile, in the chapter House Planet of the Bene Gesserit, Reverend Mother Superior Tarasa is having a discussion with Darui Odrate, a long-serving Bene Gesserit with a history of having born 19 children from 19 different men for the breeding program. Odrate is from the Atreides ancestry. She was raised not by her own parents, a Bene Gesserit sister, but instead by a foster parent that raised her with love, even playing simple happy games with them that she remembers fondly, jumping up and down her bed before being cowed and hugged by her foster parents with laughter through the entire family. During her Bene Gesserit training, most of these emotions and memories was being exorcised from her, but even now 19 children later, there is some part of it that she still remembers every now and then. It's because when her real mother gave her to the foster parent at that time for the safety of both of them, she didn't expect that her foster mother gave Atreides something that the Bene Gesserit distrust the most. The thing that caused Jessica Atreides to give birth to a Kwisatz Haderach: love. After being taken from her foster mother, Atreides was immediately sent to the Bene Gesserit school where she met Tarasa, who is 3 years her senior. They quickly become friends where Tarasa called Odrete by her nickname Dar, and Odrete replied back by calling her Tar despite the reprimands for the Bene Gesserit sisters about calling each other with their private names. Tarasa has been trying to recruit Odrete into the Gola project, just like Lucilla, because Odrete had a little bit of the prescient ability that came from her Atreides bloodline that makes her able to sense danger to the sisterhood. It of course meant that all of Odrete's children will have to be carefully monitored. Two of them has even been killed silently, which shows that at least Paul and Leto's attempt at showing the danger of Presian is still working. But for the Bene Gesserit Golas project, it is necessary this time to send Odrete to Rakis, the desert planet where for thousands of years the Atreides family once ruled in tyranny. Back in Gamu, we had the perspective of the Gola Idaho, and judging from how the story is presented, I think this child Duncan who has yet to have his past memories awakened is one of the main characters this time around too. Which is unfortunate for me because I still don't like Duncan as a character across Dune because of how much he is used to move the plot in the story in the past. He feels like a character that is inconsistently written. But at least here, his Gola is a child, so maybe it'll be more believable if he turned out to be a different person when he turned into an adult. Under the Bene Gesserit training, he soon realized that he's a Gola of Duncan Idaho, which of course he'll find out they were not being subtle about it at all. We don't know yet what the Bene Gesserit plan for Duncan is still, but it should be quite important because Tarasa, the Mother Superior, personally went to Miles Tech to recruit him to protect Duncan and maybe even sacrifice himself to awaken Duncan because Tech, who is also from the Atreides land, looked just like the first Leto, Paul's father and the man who Duncan placed his loyalty to. As a side note, there were a line where they finally acknowledged that Leto II is the first child of Paul and Chani. It's a throwaway line that feels like the author heard a lot of criticism to it and decided to put something out. It's as distracting as I make it sound. Getting back to the story, in the city of Bandaling, the base for Tlailaku, they've been under the control of others most of their time with before, during, and after the rule of the God Emperor, but they've gotten more daring since the scattering, even creating a mix of human and animals named Futar. Here, a Tlailaku master or Mahai named Will Wildwolf is confident that it's all been their grand plan to lay low in the name of their prophet so they can do his bidding. This is the first time in the history of Dune that we see the inner working of the Tlailaku, and it's surprising how close our society they are, keeping a lot of their religious beliefs so tightly that people know them only as the scientist society who made abomination. This revelation gave Dune more legitimate excuse for Ixian to be a different race than the Tlailaku, at least slightly. If the Freeman lore was from a far descendant of the Sunni Muslim, then the Tlailaku was from a far descendant for the Shia Muslim. It's of course already far different from what we currently have, since Earth has been long forgotten in the world of Dune. They've even added Shia and Sufi to it to tell us that it's been mixed with Buddhist Zen teaching. We also don't know if the Zen Sufi of the Tlailaku had some manipulation from the Bene Gesserit like the Orange Catholic and the Freeman Zen Shia. Which is a fitting question because the Tlailaku immediately received a document called the Atreides Manifesto that seemed to coincide with their plan, and they decided to help spread the manifesto, hoping to benefit from it, not knowing that Odrete is the one that made those manifesto. And then we finally went to Rakis, where we finally see Sienna, the girl that is rumored to be able to control the worm of Rakis. Rakis has been devastated by Leto Central, turning the once rich with water planet back into desert. But the people are no longer accustomed to desert life, so they live a hard life where they are losing their lands, while giant sandworms attack them all the time. Sienna even first found her ability during one of these attacks. She called the worms Satan and ride them even though it is considered blasphemous in Arrakis to ride the worms because of the history of the Freeman that's been long forgotten. But she doesn't care because she came from the lowest class of Rakis, so she and her people doesn't really care much about what the priest and religion only caters to the rich says. Because the priest has even been feeding people to the worm for any sign of disobedience or if they just felt like it. And once they confirmed that the worms obey Sienna, the information spread across the multi-galaxy. From the Rakian priesthood, the Tlailaku, and the Bene Gesserit. The current child Duncan that the Bene Gesserit is raising are even matched to Sienna's 11 years old age for obvious reason. The Tlailaku had a meeting with the people of the scattering that had come back, including the honored matter that we've been hearing so often. And Wolf will be one of the person welcoming them back. Although he had his reservation against his returnees, he still agreed with the meeting anyway to see if there's anything he can gain something by bargaining with them, which is a mistake. They didn't come to bargain, they come to demand. The Honored Matre asked for the Gola technology from the Tleilaku. She also demanded to know why the Tleilaku is giving the Bene Gesserit their Gola, but also assassinating them at the same time. She even used the voice to force this information from him. Thankfully, Wolf comes prepared, and when he saw that a face dancer had successfully infiltrated and joined the rank of the Honored Matre, he attacked the Honored Matre before she can use her sexual prowess on him. He killed them and then called a few more face dancers to replicate them, infiltrating deeper into the mysterious group as far as he could. Meanwhile, both Siana in Rakis and Duncan in Gamu have grown further in each of their place. Worshippers started to gather around Siana because of her ability to command the worm. She is considered to be chosen by Xiai Hulud, while Duncan's training under both Tak and Lucilla has gone further than Guang Yu is comfortable with. Enough that she started openly defying Lucilla and Tarasa instead of the previous passive-aggressive attitude she had. While Siana sees the worm as Shaitan according to Leto's prediction, the priest still see them as Xiai Hulud and part of Leto's holy body. But it didn't stop them from worshipping the little girl because of her ability to talk with the worm despite one-sidedly. And soon people started to worship her more than they worship Xiai Hulud because she protects them from being fed to the worms as sacrifice, which is all part of the Bene Gesserit plan. But the protection of the Gola gets more and more difficult with the approaching Honored Matre. Maestak, a Mentat, and an Atreides even had to leave the planet to save Tarasa and Odette from Ixion and the Guild, who have captured them because they now side with the Honored Matre. This might come as a surprise from how much the Bene Gesserit was treated as an antagonist so far in the series, but in this book they can be considered the protagonist of the series. The Atreides that we've seen in this book even only comes from them. Maestak and Odette is an Atreides, then there's Duncan who historically has always been loyal to an Atreides, then there's Siana who we can assume is an Atreides because her name came from Chani and she can control Leto's worm. Tarasa's plan also obviously involved a lot of the Golden Plan from Paul and Leto, with the antagonist being the Honored Matre, and she is attempting to make sure that they can survive the attack from the Honored Matre in order not to be taken by a group that is drunk with power. Siana and Odretes in Rakis will get attacked by the Tleilaku, and the same thing happened in Gamu where a face dancer tried to kill Duncan. Lucilla, Tak, and Duncan will end up escaping on a nose ship to an old abandoned Harkonnen facility that is also hidden from Parisian vision. They awakened Duncan here, making him remember his original life, but it didn't take long for the Honored Matre to find their hiding spot. Tak sacrificed himself and got captured, and Duncan and Lucilla had to separate in order to survive. Tak managed to escape while Lucilla and Duncan reunite once again. It is at this point that Duncan met an Honored Matre. And because she tried to imprint Duncan, we found out that he's been genetically manipulated by the Tleilaku to counter the Bene Gesserit sexual imprinting by making him a savant at pleasuring even the Honored Matre's Murbella that has captured him. Then this group head to Rakis. Meanwhile, Tarasa had a direct contact with Wolf the Tleilaku, trying to probe them with information regarding the Gola and the Honored Matres. The negotiation failed and both of them promised to end their conversation in Rakis. Everything once again started to head towards Dune. Odrete, who is the first to go to Rakis, managed to capture Wolf and recruit Siana. Then on a journey with one of the worms, she found one of Leto's secret spots where he kept many spice melons and a prophecy telling the end of the Bene Gesserit and Tleilaku. She had to make a snap decision that made the Bene Gesserit went on an agreement with the Bene Tleilaku, where both of them need to tell each other their deepest secret, which is against Tarasa's order. So Tarasa, learning this, fly to Rakis to have a long conversation with Odrete. But unfortunately for Tarasa, because Wolf wanted to try how good the sex with the Honored Matre is, he tried to have one with a face dancer that has copied a Matre, and doing so made him fall to their control. He betrayed them, resulting in the death of Tarasa, but before her death, she copied herself to Odrete. Mother Superior Tarasa pouring her life into Odrete before her death was one of these new things that we just found out now, even though the story never once hinted that they have that skill, which is absurd since this is the 5th book. It's very plot convenience and very annoying if this is your first time reading Dune and you're reading them back to back, where every Reverend Mother have access to the past memories. There's really no need for this, and this will most likely be the one and only time this skill was used. For better or worse, Dune has always have a little bit of plot convenience here and there from the previous books. It's just if you read them one after another, back to back, when you still remember most of this plot convenience, it can cause a ripple that can be especially felt in this 5th book. Like how Maestak suddenly having a very specific kind of prescience never been seen before felt less like an evolution after millennia and more like just plain plot armor. But nonetheless, the story ended with Miles sacrificing himself once again to attack Rakis, While Sienna, Duncan, Lucilla, and Odrade escape bringing a worm with them so they can change the Chatterhouse planet where the Bene Gesserit came from. There are still cool pieces of lore and story in Dune, but you can tell that this is just a very long preparation volume for the next book, so long that this is the thickest book from the original Frank Herbert too. As weird as this sounds since this is the fifth volume, but it's best to treat this book as a new entry instead of continuation of the story, since every book and every iteration of Duncan Idaho is basically a different character. Every characters here are new and needed their own character introduction, and there are quite a lot of characters. So much so that the antagonist, the Honor Matre, can be considered as faceless enemy for the most part, with their first introduction even being killed by Wolf easily, which makes them not as threatening as they can be. I don't think this is the worst of Dune. The first and second book, when the author is still grasping at what kind of story he wanted to tell, is still the most awkward storytelling, but this has some part which I can consider plot hole, which is why I give this a 3.25. What do you think? Let me know if I miss anything, so leave your thoughts in a comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.